Many years ago, I was helping a friend cut some grape starts. We'd gone out to Scott Henry's winery in Umpqua. Scott's made a name for himself for a particular trellising method that he developed. If you're interested in that, you can probably find that by Googling Scott Henry trellising. Basically what he did is he put in a third wire to string the grapes up for his vineyard. But while we were there, he was showing us the preferred method that was developed at UC Davis for reproducing grapevine starts. And so a vine like this, where you've got a long space between, doesn't make for a great start because of the distance between the buds. The diameter of that is reasonable. You don't want anything much smaller than a pencil. But better suited would be something like either of these two, where your buds are much closer together, but you still have the size. And I don't know if you can hear me over the airplane or not, but basically what you're doing is you cut the end that was closest to the root to a flat, and then you want to have about an arm's length somewhere in there, and then you cut the part that was away from the root at a point, an angle. And so that tells you later on, after this has been rooted, what direction to plant it, which oddly enough is not all that readily visible once it's been started. But, again, closest to the root, cut flat below a bud, come up 3 or 4 buds, and cut an angle cut. Now, once you have accumulated the number of starts that you're wanting to make, I would bundle by variety if you have multiple varieties, or areas of a vineyard that you're wanting to keep separate or whatever. And I use a copper tag when I'm rooting, put it on with a zip tie, and that way I have something that will still be there after the several months of being in the sand that you readily identify. So what they did at UC Davis, which is what Scott had told me, was they take the cuttings. We are in a dormant period. It's first part of February. It's about as late as you want to be getting into your vineyard to prune. They're not bleeding on the cuts yet. If you wait much longer and the buds start pushing, they will bleed a little bit. But in any case, back to the subject at hand, you you put them in the rooting bed upside down. And basically what your rooting bed is a container that will drain, that you can fill with playground sand. And so you put all of the various cuttings in whatever size container it is, and you bury this in sand, and you leave it where water can get on it. You want to, 2-3 inches of sand above the base of all the cuttings so that there's no sunlight or anything getting to them. And so we're the first part of February. I would guess probably mid-May, early June, you're going to start raking this back, and what you're going to see is a callus that has built up on the end. These may split, and you'll have rooting coming off the sides. And at that point is when you want to put them either into a nurse row, if you're not ready to put them in the vineyard, or directly plant them on your spacings in your vineyard. I typically, when I do that, want ground level to be about here when I plant them, but I don't completely fill the hole in. So first season, you would have a hole shaped something like that. And that allows your canes to grow from here. And then once you have established the cane that you're going to train up your trellis system, then you would go ahead and fill that hole back in to surface level. Supposedly, what that does is to prevent sucker growth from the ground. It doesn't work perfect, but that's the idea behind it. Grapes are a unique kind of plant. We see buds here and here and here, and on an apple tree, that's more or less the only places where you're going to see a branch grow from. But with grapes, the entire surface area of the entire cane, the entire trunk, is capable of producing a growth bud. And so when you plant this in the ground and you've got the base of it, you're always going to have suckers wanting to grow up from the base, and there's really not much you can do to prevent that. But in a nutshell, that's how the UC Davis College, Agricultural College, that's University of California, not Carolinas, but anyway, that's generally it. If you were going to be grafting, you would have your rootstock material, and then you would have whatever your selected variety is, and they make a tool that basically cuts a finger joint into the rootstock and then also into the selected variety. And those two finger joints, you then put them together like this. Obviously you're wanting to try to match cane diameter to cane diameter so that the sap lines line up, and then you would wrap that with grafting tape. And when you plant that, you don't want to plant as deep as what I was suggesting on varietal rootstock, because if you do, then the variety that is susceptible to phylloxera will root into the ground, and you kind of lose your protection from the phylloxera. The rootstocks are phylloxera resistant, and that's why I believe now in California you are required to plant only on grafted rootstock, and so there you have it. Anyway, there's good reason for wanting to do that. Right here, right now, we've not had a phylloxera problem, but if you go to a vineyard and they suggest that you need to put plastic bags over your boots or shoes, or go through a Clorox dip or an iodine dip or something like that, they're wanting to protect their vineyard so that you're not bringing something. If you're like on a wine tour and you visited one winery that has phylloxera and you visit another winery that doesn't have phylloxera, there is an, albeit a small chance, but a chance that you're bringing that with you. What is phylloxera? It is my understanding that phylloxera is a ground-living insect similar to an aphid. That's about where my knowledge base ends. I may or may not be absolutely correct on that, but if you want to know, there's Google, and we all have thrown our encyclopedias away, so there we are. Thank you. Hope that helps.